Welcome back. All right, so some news of the day for all you fine people for your Tuesday, November the 29th. Starting with Rope Hintz. He signs an 8-year extension with the Dallas Stars. Jim Nill signing some pretty good long-term contracts. And I say good because a cap hit of $8.45 million for Hintz, it works. And this is the game plan for Dallas. They've got their young core. Everybody's locked up for at least a while. And so, yeah, they've got Ottinger locked down, Robertson, Heiskanen, Hintz. That's great. The other young guy they haven't quite got locked up long term is Pavelski. I swear he's going to play another 20 years. So it's an $8.45 million cap hit. Doesn't matter the season by season. All we worry about is the cap hit, right? And it's the same cap hit as Heiskanen. So Hintz and Heiskanen both making the same cap hit. And this year in 22 games, he has 8 goals, 16 assists, 24 points. Dallas is in pretty good hands with this young core. Keep in mind that outside of Heiskanen, these are draft picks they hit on. This is why you have scouts you pay good money to, is to get a guy like Hintz outside the first round. Robertson wasn't a top 5 pick. This is a team that's been built the right way. It looks like it might very well be sustainable. And so, yeah, Hintz is sticking around for 8 more years beyond this one. That's 9 years in total, including this season. It's not bad. Good work by Jim Nill, who has had an up and down career as a general manager. And I think it's a good example of why just firing a GM after one bad season for a team might be a problem. There are mistakes Nill's made along the way, but he's clearly learned from them. And locking these guys down to long-term extensions is the right move. Steven Stamkos coming out of last night's game. He now has 493 goals and 998 points. So he's 2 points away from 1,000. Tonight they're against Boston. I would not be surprised to see Stamkos get to 1,000 points against the Boston Bruins. That should fire him up, seeing the Boston Bruins, who are right now the second ranked team in the East. And you know, Tampa Bay coming off that win last night against Buffalo. We'll see if they have that momentum. And yeah, Stamkos can reach 1,000 points. 500 goals is a little bit further away. Once he reaches 500 goals, I'll do a little career video look at Steven Stamkos at 500 goals. Because it's remarkable that he's getting to that mark, considering how his goal scoring had dropped off for a couple of years there. So he's definitely got either the wrist strength back to where he wants it to be, or he's adapted. Either way, Stamkos, one of the best players of this generation of NHLers, and yeah, definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer in my opinion. For Seattle, tonight's kind of a big night. They're aiming for a franchise record with a 6th straight win. They're in Los Angeles. They've beaten LA twice already this season, and so we'll see if they can get to that new franchise record. The franchise records will be modest considering the way last season went. Last season was not a good season. Even by expansion standards, 60 points, just there was more expected with Seattle. And this year now they're playing at a better rate than what they were expected to last season. So it's like they've kind of overcompensated. The Vancouver Canucks are aiming for a more modest win streak. Their 3-game winning streak they're on right now is the longest of the season. So it is definitely a modest total. This game tonight at home against Washington is important. Getting that momentum, getting back to NHL 500 could be huge. So they're trying for that 4th straight win. We'll see if they get there, and if they do, how quickly naysayers will come out and go, yeah, but this team's still not made right. Okay, cool, fine, good, all right, keep that up. It's the energy you got to keep up. I just picture people sitting in the crowd while the Canucks are winning, wearing Canucks gear and going, yeah, but this isn't really sustainable. I don't feel like cheering because, you know, it's just going to fall apart later, so there's no point cheering now. Okay, sure, cool. So I just find it weird. I've always found it weird when there are people in media, and it's not just Vancouver, obviously. You see it in Toronto and Montreal and others, where some media members seem to get miserable when the team's doing well. Like, well, now what? This is awful. But anyways, moving on from that, getting into the New Jersey Devils, a team that's just setting their own records and threatening NHL records too. So they won their 10th road game last year. They're the 3rd team in NHL history to do so in 11 games or less from the start of the season. Buffalo did it in 06-07. That was a pretty good year for Buffalo. And Boston did it in 1929-30. So It's not something that gets done often. I believe the 1929-30 Bruins ended up winning a Stanley Cup that year. Buffalo didn't. Buffalo hasn't. But 06-07 was a pretty big year for Buffalo. So that bodes well for the New Jersey Devils. If you're asking, can they keep this up? That would tell you probably yes. Their 13th win in a month trails only Colorado, who had 15 in January of this month. Boston had 15 in March of 2014. Pittsburgh had 15 in March of 2013. Columbus had 14 in December of 2016. So Colorado's the most recent. They did win the Stanley Cup that year. So the other teams didn't. But I don't think the Devils and their fans are that worried about winning a cup right now. It's just about, hey, you're enjoying the ride. The team's playing really well. And it is far more fun to follow a team when they're winning than when they're at or near the bottom of the standings. So it's overdue for New Jersey and their fans. Mitch Marner extends his point streak to 17 games with that one last night. Pretty much almost always getting 1 point per game, but who cares? It's a 17-game point streak. He trails only Daryl Sittler from 77-78 and Eddie Olczyk from 89-90, who have had 18-game point streaks as members of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Marner is one of those players who I think will be more appreciated later than he is now. Marner, to me, is still one of the best pure passers in the NHL. He can shoot, he can score. That's what makes the passing impressive, and it makes it so you can get those assists. The guys in history who've been known as primarily assist guys, whether it's Henrik Sedin, whether it's Adam Oates, Craig Janney, what makes those assists work is you have to make the team respect your shot as well. And those guys all had good shots, and they could score goals, but they chose to pass instead. They were pass-first guys. So Marner's like that. Can he score? Absolutely. He absolutely can, but he does prefer to pass the puck. And there's nothing wrong with that. As long as your team's winning and he's getting points and he's got good chemistry with his line mates, doesn't matter whether they're goals or assists or points, just the same. Jason Robertson extended his point streak to 16, brought his goals up to 19, which leads the league, of course. 16-game point streak. It leads the Dallas Stars all time, because I keep hearing about, it's a Dallas Stars record. It is, but a franchise record is going back to 20 is the franchise record. Brian Bellows did that in 85-86. So that's the record that Robertson's chasing to reach the franchise record. And he was first star in the NHL this week. So good on Robertson for that. He is an absolute superstar at this stage in his career. And again, I know Dallas is on the board twice, but I felt like those are two completely different items, and I was okay with having them in two separate spots on the board. Tonight, of course, in Calgary, it's important to note that Matthew Tkachuk makes his first return to Calgary since being traded there from Florida. I will be interested to see what kind of reception he gets. If it's just booing that he gets, if there's some cheers in there, there should be some cheers as well. I don't think there should be hard feelings towards Tkachuk. They got something in trade for him. He gave it his all when he was there. The fact that he didn't want to sign a long-term extension in Calgary, I don't think necessarily makes him a villain. I definitely think that a player has the right to say, when I'm a free agent, I would like to play in that location, or I don't see myself having a long-term future here. I don't take that as a big insult. I think that's okay. I think that level of honesty is kind of refreshing. So we'll see what kind of reception he gets, and if he goads on the fans or not. If they start booing him a lot, I'm thinking his last name's Tkachuk. He probably does, if that's the case. Of course, last night was another disappointing result for the New York Rangers. It definitely is worthy of a video. I'm considering doing one today. Shesterkin is blaming himself. Shesterkin absolutely is blaming himself. I've been saying in recaps as well, one thing with the Rangers that kind of throws me off is that last year Shesterkin set the bar so high. And it was a season where the league really found out how good he was. I think what's happened this year is there's two things. I do think his play's dropped off a bit. I think the defense in front of him has also been a little more suspect than last season. But I also think teams come into games now against Shesterkin with more of a game plan than maybe they did last year. It's something I've talked about before, how a goaltender can come into the league, like a Jim Carey. Blaine Locker came into the league. He was great for Boston for the first while. But then teams learn, okay, this is the weakness of this goaltender, this is the weakness of this goaltender, and then they plan around that, right? And so maybe with Shesterkin, we're seeing some of that. That he may have certain weaknesses. We saw last year in the playoffs, teams starting to find a little bit of an opening there when you're against Igor, where you can maybe get those goals. So we'll see if that continues, or if Shesterkin's numbers get better. I like Shesterkin quite a bit. I think he's a great goaltender. I think he's going to play through this. I think he'll be fine. But with the frustration and the level of frustration that he showed after last night's game and how he was blaming himself on all of it, that's something that I would hope Gerard Gallant would step in with him and talk to him and say, you know, it's not on you, it's on all of us, and take some of that pressure off of him. This is also where the fact that the backup Jaro Halak doesn't have a win, it really makes it a tough. It makes it really difficult for the Rangers to turn this around from that perspective as well. I know Georgiev's record wasn't great with the Rangers last year, but there were wins there, and so for the Rangers, they're going to need to make some kind of a change somewhere, and we'll see what happens. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're a Rangers fan, what do you attribute the losses to? The moments where the team's focus just seems off and they can't hold those leads. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.